Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew with James Kirkland.
Powerful and provocative. Prophetic and practical.
Intellectual stew.
Informative and inspirational. How you gonna do better if you don't know what better looks like? I do.
Intellectual stew.
Come on, let's talk about it with me, the mind massager.
Intellectual stew with James.
Mic on. What's up? What it do? Time for another episode of the Intellectual Stew with yours truly, James Kirkland. And we are going to have another thought-provoking conversation tonight. And I am excited to have special guests on tonight. Y'all know what I'm trying to do. Everybody that follows me, y'all know what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to really work towards reconstructing or rebuilding the family. That's everything I do is centered around that, trying to rebuild family, trying to help us communicate better, help us be more successful in relationships. And kind of got into a funk, I guess, if you will, in the last several weeks because I was accused of woman bashing and all of these types of things. And if anybody that knows me knows that that's far from the truth, because if I bash women, then you might as well say I bashed men too, because I've done the same types of shows where I've called men on the carpet and challenged them to undo the damage that we have done as men to women. So that's what that's my goal. I've tried. So I had a suggestion by one of my panelists, and she suggested that why not get some married couples on, and if we got some married couples on, we can hear some of their stories and hear some of their success stories, some of their failures, how they made it through their failures, and all of those types of things. So I started thinking and pondering and trying to figure out who should I bring on, who would be a blessing to our audience. So one of the people I brought on was a young man or gentleman that I brought on my Tuesday show by the name of Rodney Young. And he had me crying on that night. I had a very powerful testimony and he blessed a lot of people. So and I heard and I was told about the ministry that he and his wife are doing. And so I wanted to bring them on. So I'm going to bring them in now and I'll let them introduce themselves and we'll get deeper into the conversation. First, I'm going to bring her and then I'll bring him. Lady Z, how are you doing tonight?
I am great. How are you?
I'm making it on broken pieces, but since the wood floats, I'm going to hold on to the ship, if that's all right with
All
you.
right. That is
Since
all
the
right with
wood floats,
me.
I'm going to hold on to the ship. Let me go
I
ahead and
like
bring my
that.
friend in. Come on, Pastor Rodney. How you doing, sir?
Hey, man, I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Man, I'm faking it till I make it, but hey, I promise you, hey, I know what the end looks like, so I'm good,
Right,
man. I'm marking time now. I'm
right.
marking time. How you doing? But everything's good. Everything. How was the weekend? How was church? All those kind of things.
Everything is good, man. I had one of those good church naps after service, so that tell you a little bit about what was going on.
Did you miss? Did you get to watch any football?
I didn't watch any football.
Wow.
But I know you're gonna catch me up on everything.
Man, I don't have to. ESPN got this thing called Scores. You can go and you can Google, say, show me all the NFL scores, and Google will take care of all that for you. So I won't deprive you of all this technology that is available for us.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
No problem, no problem. Hey, those that are in the chat, I see you already. If you would do me a favor, go ahead and share this stream. Share this stream, and let's get this conversation started tonight. Now, Lady Z, what I try to do is I try to get the audience engaged earlier in the day. And the way I do that is I ask very specific questions. And today, but what I did a little different. I actually left the questions a little general, and I asked the audience because I told them I had a couple coming on that was
Mhm.
married for 33 years. And everybody always talking about, well, people don't tell us the truth about marriage. I'm like, well, who advertises their wounds? You know what I'm saying? I don't never see nobody walking around, showing, hey, this is where I got cut at. You know what I'm saying? Who
That's
does
true.
that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
The scar is there. It's evidence of the cut, right? So I don't got to advertise. So everybody goes through things in marriage, right?
that
But
is
the
true.
question is, and here's the challenge: how do you because y'all grow together? And y'all tell me if I'm wrong, because y'all been doing this longer than I have. But you grow together. But the challenge is to figure out how to manage the growth. Am I saying that right, Lady Z?
You are indeed.
Okay. Okay. So if we manage the growth properly, when we
Mhm.
come into those moments that are rocky, or those moments that would make us quote unquote want to give in the towel. Sometimes and I used to watch my mama do this a lot. My mama would go to somebody's house, right? And she'll see a plant that she really, really liked. And so she couldn't take the whole plant, but she'll ask for a little root from the plant and put it in
That's
another
right.
pot. Does that
Yeah.
make
Mhm.
sense?
It
And so
does.
sometimes in marriage and relationships, when you come to that little rut, sometimes you got to take it out of the root out and put it in another pot just to give it room to grow. I mean,
Mhm.
y'all correct me if I'm wrong on this whole thing. Y'all talk. I'm not the only one
Yeah.
going to talk. I'm talking. Am I saying it right, Pastor Rodney?
I think you're exactly right. I think that first of all, that there are no perfect marriages,
Okay.
and there are no one size fits all solution to any issues that we come up with. But when we borrow from one another, or we glean, as the scriptures say, as we glean from one another, then we can benefit from the experience of somebody else. So I think it's always good to sit down and talk with people that have already gone a little bit further than what we have. I think that's important.
Okay. How about you,
I totally agree.
Lady Z? Would you like to add anything to that?
I totally agree. I think one of the greatest misconceptions about marriage is that um, I've always got to get 80%.
Mm,
And that's just not true. Sometimes you have to be the one to give the 80%.
mm,
It's rarely a 50-50. Sometimes I have to give more, sometimes he has to give more. So we have to understand that. And when we understand that, all the time I don't have the 80% to give, all you don't always have the 80% to give. I think we can do things a little bit better then.
okay. Well, let's go ahead and let's go, since we're here, let's go ahead and get it started, because somebody came to my inbox. They didn't want to come on the page, okay? And I'm gonna start with you, Lady Z, because this is
Okay.
one of the biggest problems for a lot of people in 2022. Is that what year
Hmm.
we in? I don't even keep up no more.
Hmm.
But yeah,
We are.
this is one of the biggest problems, because feminism is alive and well, and and everybody's trying to talk about self-preservation, and there's individualism and all these types of things. And one word we do not like to hear, especially among black African American folk, is that whole word called submit.
Yeah, yeah.
How, Lady Z, as a pastor's wife, as a mother, as a wife, as a powerful force in your own right, how do you feel about, hey, Coy, how do you feel about that whole word submitting piece?
What I feel
Hold on,
about.
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold
Okay.
on. I didn't mean to stop you, but
Okay.
somebody has already said, and no, and listen, let me say this. These are all personal opinions. Nothing is law here, okay? This is
Right.
how we feel. This is so that term. So somebody says submit is an outdated term, okay? But I want to see you 33 years in. Now, the person that probably said that, I don't know how long they've been married, or if they are married or anything of the sort. But you
Hmm.
33 years in. Tell me how you feel about that word.
What I feel about submission is when you have when you're committed to a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at the word submit, a lot of times we feel like it's outdated. We feel like we may feel that it makes me less than a person when if I say that I submit myself to my husband. But um, we have to go back to the word, and the word talks about how man is supposed to submit to Christ, and that Christ is the head of man, and man is the head of the wife, and so on and so forth. We have to submit. Submit is simply showing respect. It's not saying that I'm any less than he is. It's saying that I know my place. And the Bible
Mm,
talks about submitting yourselves one to another. So it's not just saying that the woman has to submit, but it's saying that they each have to submit, and we each have to know our role. So it's not saying that I am degrading myself when I say that I submit to my husband. It's saying it, and one thing I believe is that if a husband is a show enough husband, a wife does not mind um, submitting or following or walking alongside, or whichever, however you want to put it, to a good man, to a man that's true, to a godly
mm.
man. So there's nothing wrong with submitting. It's not saying that I am degrading myself, that I am less than he is. It's saying that I am showing respect and showing my place.
Okay. And let me give you the definition, Pastor Rodney, before you expound on that. I'm gonna give you the definition of submit. Definition of submit says to accept or yield to a superior force or to the authority or will of
Mhm,
another person.
mhm,
Does that sound accurate, Pastor Rodney?
I was doing the same thing that you were doing while you were talking about it. I'm looking at it in the Greek, and it says to retire, withdraw, to yield, submit is metaphorically uh, submitting to spiritual guides in the church. That's what it says. So it's saying basically the same thing. But I wanted to really kind of touch on where the confusion comes from and where we get in so much trouble when we talk about that scripture is
Okay.
because of what my wife just quoted. It's in Ephesians 5:21, and
mhm,
Mm-hmm.
we leave out a part of that verse of scripture there. We just say that submission is about a wife submitting to the husband, but that's not actually what the scriptures say. The
right,
scriptures say in that 21st verse, it says, submitting yourselves one to another.
right.
Okay.
And so God doesn't just expect, and we're speaking from the standpoint of a godly marriage, but God doesn't just expect for the woman to submit to the man, but he also expects for the man to submit to the woman. So it's not a
Mhm,
one-sided thing that God ever intended. Where the confusion comes in is that we have been taught that it's the woman that's supposed to submit to the man, and we don't teach that other part of it. And so we end up having brothers come into the house on the head of the house, and so you got to do what I say, and it doesn't matter whether it's wrong or right. I'm the man, and you have to do it. And so we have misconstrued what
Mm,
God intended for us to draw from that particular passage of scripture. But in a
mhm,
godly marriage, it's not just my wife submitting to me, but it's also me submitting to her as well. Women, there's so many wives that'll save their husbands from danger because those
oh yeah,
husbands
I'm a
submitted.
witness.
Moses is one of them. Moses and Zipporah, when God was about to destroy Moses because he didn't circumcise his son, it was Zipporah that jumped in and circumcised their son and saved his life. So we benefit when we can let the woman have equal input in the relationship. So it's
Gotcha.
not supposed to be a hierarchy. We're walking side by side as a partnership.
Gotcha. And let me quantify this, okay, a little bit more, because you got to understand. And those that are listening, do me a favor. Y'all know y'all can support this platform by sending stars. You can purchase stars and send stars. And those that are listening, feel please, ma'am, please, sir, share this thread. But what I want you to understand, Lady Z and Rodney, is that, and I know you do because, but there is a segment of society, a large segment of society, right, that has never seen successful marriage.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have mamas who are married. They don't have grandmamas who are married. They've never seen a husband. They've never seen these things. So now we have to run with I had a conversation with my daughter the other day because she made a mistake, and I told her, I said, sweetheart, sometimes you move too fast. I said, sometimes you go and learn things before I have time, before we have a chance to teach you.
Yeah.
And that's a bad lesson to learn before somebody has a chance to teach you, right? And so many people haven't been taught. We only and Z, Lady Z, we don't even have the Huxtables no more. You know
That's
what I'm
right.
saying? I mean, at least we had Martin and Gina. You know what I'm saying? That was a heterosexual relationship. They were dating and then worked towards marriage. We had
Yeah.
positive examples of marriage back then, right? But now we don't even have those positive examples.
Mhm.
So when somebody who's unlearned about marriage, who's
Mhm.
unlearned about positive relationships, who's unlearned about biblical marriage, because that's what we teach, because that's what we stand on, then when they hear the word submit, it'll sound like a bad word.
Yeah.
So
Right. That's true.
Pastor Rodney, do me a favor, because you're talking to some young men who are either married now or who will get married one day, right? And explain to them what it means, Pastor Rodney, to submit to your wife.
Oh man, how many times over 33 years of marriage has my wife contributed something that kept us out of trouble, that taught me? I noticed that somebody asked a question earlier of you for us to talk about the pros and the cons.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I can't find the cons in it,
Wow.
and I'm not just trying to romanticize the relationship, but everything negative that's happened within our relationship turned around for a positive. My wife
Wow.
contributed something to my life
Wow.
that wasn't there before. And a lot of times in the church, especially in the church, people celebrate the pastors, but they forget about the women who stand beside those pastors. My wife made me the man that I am today
Mm.
because I was open to listening to the things that she contributed to my life. I hadn't made it yet. I'm still, on this journey right here. But the things that she contributed to me helped make me the person that I am today. So in being open to her and her contribution, she has not just naturally, she has an MBA, but that's not the only thing that she brings to the table within our relationship. It's just where she came from as opposed to where I came from, and she contributed something to me that caused me to respect her enough that I listen to what she has to say concerning our relationship. So it's
Gotcha.
not weakness to
Mm-hmm.
listen to what your wife has to say. It's to your betterment.
Okay. That's good. Is he telling the truth, Lady Z? I mean, don't or is he talking, or is he putting
No.
on for the book? I'm just trying to make sure. I mean, cause I'm watching. I'm watching facial expression. I'm joking. I'm not. Can I ask you?
Please
He
do.
knows me. He
Please
knows
do.
me. Let me tell you something. Rodney knows me, and I feel his spirit, because the day we met, we kind of, our spirits were kind of kindred. You know what I'm saying? In that moment, and we've so I'm joking when I say, so don't pay, Ladies E, trust me, I ain't trying to cause no problem between you, and
No,
I know I
I know
can't.
you're not.
So no, let's get on to this, and let's get some of these questions. Lady Z, how old were y'all when y'all met? Were y'all, like, somebody asked me earlier, were y'all high school sweethearts, or did y'all meet after high school? How did that go?
No, we were not high school sweethearts. And I went through and read the questions, and I appreciate all the questions that were submitted. We were not high school sweethearts, but we were in our early 20s, uh,
Okay.
and when we met. I'm actually a year old, well, 364 days older than he is. So
Oh, I
we
thought he was at least 4 or 5 years older than you.
No, bro, I like them
no,
older
No.
women, man. I like them older women.
but
So
we were
okay, okay,
we
go
were
ahead.
in our early 20s. So when we met, so and we met, and I heard some. I see one of the questions was talking about were we believers before we met, before marriage, and high schools, I mean sweethearts, and how long we were engaged and all of that. We were actually we met in 1989,
Okay.
well, 1988, and in September of 88. In April of 89, we were married.
Oh wow.
So that's like 6 months or so later, we were married. And
Okay.
yeah,
So y'all married 6 months.
we
Yeah.
were engaged.
Y'all were engaged.
Engaged.
No. Y'all
No, we
met.
weren't engaged six
Y'all weren't
months.
engaged 6 months.
No,
Okay.
we were
So
not.
so what was it? Did it mean, was it wham bam? Was it blow my mind type thing? Was I
Yeah, that's kind of
lonely?
like what it was, man. That's kind of like what it was because I was buff, and I had them curls that make you seasick, man. Them
The
waves that make
waves.
you seasick, and she
Did you
saw
leave a
me,
spot on the back of the couch?
huh?
Did you leave?
He
Did your hair leave a
did.
spot on the back?
He
Did
did.
No,
your
no,
hair
I
leave a
didn't
spot on?
do
You didn't have a
that.
Jerry
I didn't
curl
do
leave a
like
spot on the
that.
back of the couch? Okay.
Look, man, she giving you the sanitized version.
I
I
need to
want
give me the give it to me.
you
Give it to me.
for your Monday night audience.
No, we rated R and X over here a little bit, but I
All
kind of
right.
keep them. I keep them
All right. We're
tame
gonna
though.
get
I,
there.
I ain't gonna
I
go
keep.
X. But let me give you the R-rated version right there. The
Okay.
unsanitized version.
Hmm.
I was in prison. I shared this in the last time we got together. I was in prison, facing 62 years.
Mm,
And we talked about how the Lord brought us out of that situation, but I still served 3.5 years of that 62 years that they were trying to place on me. And just before I was released, I was moved to what's commonly known as a work camp.
okay.
And I was there with some guys that I had gone to college with, and all of us was locked up, and we got visits on Sunday.
Okay.
She came in with her sister, and they came to visit somebody that was from the town that they were in.
Okay.
And when she came through the door, the Spirit of the Lord spoke to me
Wow.
and asked me the question, what kind of wife would she make? I had been celibate for over 3 years, all of the
Jesus.
time that I had been incarcerated. And when she walked in the door, the Spirit of the Lord spoke to me and asked me, what kind of wife would she be? I looked up, I saw her. Just so happens that she was friends with some of the guys that I had gone to school with, and they introduced us. That's where we met. We married before I was released from prison.
Okay.
I was on a
Okay.
3-day leave, and we
Okay.
got married in my mother's backyard because
Jesus.
we didn't want to burn. So you're supposed to marry to keep from burning, you know.
Amen.
And I saw something that was making me burn, and so
Oh Lord.
I had to go for it at 23 years old. I was 23 years old. She was 24, and we got married.
Man, I gotta say this. I gotta say this. Lady Z, can I just give you if I were there, I mean I would ask your permission first, but I would give you a hug for real.
Wow.
Because see, people don't realize what Lady Z just did.
Yeah.
See, Lady Z was operating in her role as a wife, as a submissive wife, when I asked this question. Because y'all missed it, but she covered her husband. See, all she said was, I'm gonna give you the vanilla version. We met while we was young. We were this age. It was this amount of time. She didn't want you to know he was in prison. She didn't want you to know he was looking at 62 years. She said that's his testimony to tell. I ain't finna tell you that testimony. Because see, a lot of wives will want to try to take the very moment they can, or girlfriends, whatever you want to call them, to put somebody else down to lift themselves up. And that's not what happens in a relationship when you have two people that are spiritually bound. Because the Bible says what God has put together, no man can put asunder. And if
Right.
God puts you together, then what she does is she covers him and he covers her. That's why he talked about submitting yourselves one to another. That's the
Right.
word right there, Brendan Hidden Price. Some women want to expose you. Some husbands want to expose you for a joke or anything of the sort. She told you, yeah, we met back then. We wasn't high school sweethearts. We were in our 20s. We were doing this, and she gave you just enough. And what he come back and say, nah, let me give you the unsanitized version.
Yeah.
See, that's what submission does. See, y'all worried about the wrong kind of submission. See, y'all worried about somebody taking your manhood or your womanhood or causing you to be this. That ain't, there you go right there, Brenda Hinton Price. Love covers.
Yeah.
If you show enough love somebody in a relationship that you're married to, y'all coming back another week, I promise y'all are. But that love covers. See, y'all missed it. She was operating in her divine role as a wife and submitted right then. Thank you, Lady Z, for that subliminal.
Right.
I don't miss them. I'm sorry,
Mm.
I don't miss those messages. And when those messages come, I gotta pull out my spiritual highlighter so somebody can see that needs to be picked up. Now, why did you
Mhm.
do that? Because I guessed. Tell me, did I say it wrong?
You said it right. You said
I
it
just
right.
told you I had already told you because I had them protruding pectorials and them bulging biceps. So that's why she chose me.
Okay,
Go
but
ahead, go
okay,
ahead, go
okay, but here
ahead.
it is. Here it is, Lady Z. I'm coming to you.
Okay.
Now, those in the audience, they've been married 33 years, but there was a time in their marriage that they divorced.
That is true.
Y'all hear me? I said it. There was a time in their marriage that they divorced. My
They
cousin
did.
said whoever divorces and gets remarried is mentally ill. I don't agree with that.
I,
I don't agree with
I can't
that.
go for that.
No, because I know y'all too well. So we know it's not mental illness, okay? So tell me what happened. Why did y'all get divorced? What did it look like the time between y'all's time apart? Did you date other people? This is Lady Z talking right now. Did you
Okay.
date other people? How did y'all find your way back to each other? Help us out with that.
Okay. So when we divorced, when I met him, he was already saved. I was not saved.
Okay.
Um, so I was still out there doing my thing, doing whatever. When I met him, he was a preacher, and I knew that I always knew that I would marry a preacher. From an early age, I knew that I was going to marry a preacher.
Okay.
However, when I met him, when I married him, I didn't realize that that was going to be the preacher. Okay, so when we met and when we married, I don't think I was ready to settle down.
Okay.
I think I was still had some wild oats that I wanted to sow,
All right.
um, and so and it was I went there, and when we divorced, it was like a year after we married. We were married about a year. We um, we did date other people.
Mm-hmm.
He dated other people. I dated other people, and I remember it was out coming up on a year's anniversary when we after we had divorced, and I can remember the Lord speaking to me and telling me, "You better go get that man."
Wow.
Because other women were after him. He was still preaching. He was in the church. He was being faithful to the church, and I wasn't. But the Lord spoke to me and told me, "You better go get your husband."
Wow.
And I told him that we didn't get back together right away, but the Lord put us back together.
Wow. Rodney, you got anything you want to say about that?
Well, when she was talking about it, I was thinking about it even the night that it took place. I was out with somebody
Mm-hmm.
that I was dating at that time, and she was driving. She brought me back, and you already know what I'm finna talk about right there. That she
Mm-hmm.
brought me back to the house, and she was supposed to drop me off and
Mm.
keep going, but when we got there, Zena was parked in front of my house.
Mm-hmm.
And so that caused her to cut her car off and step out to investigate the matter further. Uh,
Right.
and I thought we would come to blows, that night
Oh wow.
because they kind of bumped heads and it was round, round. And so I asked her to go ahead and leave, let me talk to her. And we went inside, and I remember what she said to me. She said, "We got these two girls to raise,
Okay.
and we want you back at home." And
Okay.
and it wasn't my plan. I was trying to be hard like a man, but God had spoke to me, and it was destiny, for us to be together. I
Mm.
thought about nobody else but her during that time, and God put us back together,
He
even though
did.
It wasn't a legal separation. We were legally divorced
Mhm.
at this
Wow.
time. And God brought us back together. We remarried, and it's been 33 years.
Wow. Hey, y'all, listen, we are 30 minutes into this conversation. We got a good 30 more minutes to go. And I want everybody that's listening, please, ma'am, please, sir, share this thread. If you would like to support this platform, do purchase stars and support this platform, please, by sending stars. I mean, this is deep. So you mean tell me y'all didn't get divorced because Rodney cheated?
No, no,
Huh?
no, that wasn't it.
No, come on, hold on.
That
Y'all,
wasn't it.
please. This what the society teaches. Y'all know, because on Saturday and Sunday mornings they run cheaters like 8-9 hours a day to make
Mhm.
they got people who don't even not even in relationships thinking that people are cheating on them, right? By programming them.
Yeah.
So you weren't
Come
ready
on,
to
Levi.
be married at that point.
I think that's exactly what it was.
Wow.
Yeah,
When
I
did you come?
wasn't.
When did you come? Did you get older and look back over your life and come to that realization? Who is the little man behind you? Look at him on your shoulder. I see you, fella. When did you come to that realization?
um,
What am I boasting about? I'm,
it
I'm
was
just
it was basically just an ongoing thing. I realized that I had started to make excuses that I kept saying, "Would I felt like you're taking me for granted?" I felt like, just different things. But when it all boiled down to it, when I really um, got honest with myself, I realized that it was me, that
okay.
it was just me that thought I didn't want to settle down. Um, I didn't want that.
Wow.
Yeah.
You blessing
And
me tonight,
so,
Lady Z. I ain't gonna lie. Go ahead, Rodney. I'm sorry.
you can for anybody that's listening, you can recover from infidelity. If
Hmm.
Mm,
infidelity takes place, that doesn't have to be the end of your relationship, but you can recover from that. Scripture says, what God has joined together, let not man put asunder. God will do everything that he can to give you the solutions that you need to stay together.
gotcha.
So we're
Gotcha.
testimonies of that.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Gerald Jennings, y'all know that's our good friend.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Zena, he wanted you to talk a little bit more about what was it that made you cover him when I asked that question, about when
Okay.
y'all got married. What was it? What was it? Yeah, and it's okay to disagree. And
It
society,
is.
Melinda,
Yeah.
society
Hmm.
teaches us to disagree on that. The
Hmm.
Bible, nowhere in the vows does it ever say you won't be cheated on. It just says something about for better and for worse. So that's a choice on how you want to handle that. But they're saying that's how they would handle the divorce part. I mean, the cheating. Aren't you talking about the cheating? I think, Melinda, I think you're talking about you can be recovered from cheating. I think that's what you're talking about. But go
Hmm.
ahead, Lady Z. Tell me. Let's talk about that a little bit more. Why did when I asked that question? Because I know you knew what
Hmm.
I ain't say you only, I'm talking about us. If you look at programming, it's out here. Believe me, trust. We'll talk about that on another show. But let's
Okay.
stay on. I'm gonna stay on topic right now. Go ahead.
Okay. So your question to me is why cover? Why did I cover him?
Yeah, that's what Gerald asked
Okay.
earlier. Yeah.
Okay. I think you said it when you talked about you don't we don't go around revealing our scars. There's a time and a place for that. My husband, I only want people to see the best of my husband.
Mm,
Um, Regardless of what we're not perfect. We don't profess to be perfect. We when there's time when it's time for it, we will share the good, the bad, and the ugly.
okay.
However, I want people to always see that my husband is a stand-up guy. He's a true man of God, and that that it wasn't him. It wasn't because of what he did as far as the divorce, but as far as him being in prison, as you said, that's his testimony.
Hmm.
And when he's ready to share that, then he share that. It's not anything that we try to hide.
Okay.
He tell his testimony all the time. But again, it's his testimony, and it's my responsibility to let people see the man that he is.
Not who he was. That is so good.
Hmm.
That is so good. That is so good. And anybody who has not seen Pastor Rodney's testimony, you can go back and check some of our previous shows. We did a show, and what was it? Rebounding from rock bottom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, rebounding from rock bottom. It's one of my. You can go to my YouTube channel and find that. And he had us all crying on that day because he was facing 62 years. But during that time, he talked about how God blessed him, and and one thing he's always done is he's always esteemed his wife. He's always esteemed his wife, and that's why one of the reasons why they're on the show tonight. And I appreciate that. And you're talking about because I put a post up a couple weeks ago and I talked about. I said if people can get remarried again, that's real reconciliation. You know that I mean,
That's real. Yeah.
that's some real reconciliation. You know because I mean we could talk about soulmates, we could talk about soul ties, we can talk about all of these types of things, but when you're talking about the type of love that I hear Lady Z saying that she has for her husband. And I think the reason she has that type of love for her husband is because of the love he's reciprocated to her. And
Mhm.
so when you know that that love is genuine and you feel that love, see, when you feel that love's genuine and you know it, it kind of puts you in a whole different plateau. It puts you in a whole different stratosphere where you're secure being submissive or being submissive and all those types of things. But let's move on. Somebody asked me another question. They asked me, and this is for you, Pastor Rodney. How do y'all handle financial crises in the family? How do y'all handle?
We came to an agreement early on, and I'm going to lead into the answer for that. But we came into an agreement early on. A lot of people feel like it's wrong to have separate bank accounts. That's a call that you have to make individually. There's no scripture that says you have to have a joint bank account, and having a separate bank account means that you're not on one accord. There's nothing that substantiates that. We learned early on who could handle money the best. My wife has a business mind, as I stated earlier. She's an MBA, and she has always handled the money in the house. And whenever there are financial situations that have to be taken care of, that goes back to again to that submission right there. That I allow her to handle the financial areas of our home. If she needs something and she needs to tap into what I have, then she can get that to take care of whatever needs to be taken care of. But whenever there are financial situations, that's one of the most trying things that you can go through within a relationship. It will split marriages up. We had the biggest problems early on in marriage. We loved each other to death. Up until income tax time. And when income tax time came, then everything fell apart, and it wasn't number $2,000 if we got that right there. But we loved each other all of the year long until income tax time came. And then that's when we had issues right there. I'm looking at Tanisha saying his, hers, and our bills. Everything belonged to us, but then when it came to deciding in the beginning where the money should go, we had issues with that. We had cars that were repoed. We had a car that was repoed probably about at least 8 to 10 times.
Wow.
We had foreclosure on our home. The lights got cut off. The electricity got cut off. We had 3 babies in the house. We were carrying water, waiting until dark and going up to the corner store and filling up jugs with water and bringing them back, so our babies could bathe. And so we struggled.
Man, this is good.
I was on my way to preach a revival one night. Everybody had got dressed in the house. I got dressed. And as soon as I stepped out the door, the repo man was there in the driveway picking up our vehicle. He couldn't tell everybody. So I just asked him, let me get my stuff out of the car. Can you drop me off at the church that I got to preach? So we struggled along the way. But we have learned that's where my submission comes in. We learned that we didn't know how to manage money the way that we should. And we learned along the way to trust one another. in what we were doing, so I
Well,
don't
hold
know.
on, because Brenda Hinton Price asked a question. Don't ask me, because she's here. Lady Z, how you make it through all that? That's what they want to know. They said, how you make it through all that?
Well, as he said, it was something that we had to learn together.
Yeah.
We had to learn this together. Um, and when it came to somebody else said his, hers, ours, and the bills, we had to learn that whatever came into the house, we had to put the bills first.
Okay.
And this is not something that we always did. So it was something that we had to learn. Uh, as far as how did I handle all of this, was to realize that it was a learning process, that we don't come here knowing how to manage money. We don't come here knowing how to handle our bills. I hate late payments. I hate to be behind on anything. So it was a learning process that we had to learn, that before we could go out and to eat or to buy anything, we first had to make sure that the bills were paid and that the kids had what they needed, that the
Okay, I got a
house was
question.
taken care of.
I got a question. Because notice this TV in Hollywood makes things look a certain way. Do
Mm.
married couples argue?
Oh my God.
They don't just argue; they fuss
I mean,
and they fight too.
Look,
Yeah,
man,
all of that.
how many times have both of us said it's over? I'm finna go, pack the bag,
what?
left, all of that.
Mm.
I'm talking about preacher,
Wow. Wow.
pastor, first
Let,
lady.
Yep.
wow.
And,
Let me say this to the audience. Let me say, and then you come and hold that thought
Mm.
right there, because I want you to come right back to it. See, what we got to understand is that if the seed didn't understand its assignment, it would stop at the beginning. But see, the seed has to go through all the elements. It's got to go through the rain. It's got to go through the mud. It's got to go through manure. It's got to go through so many things. But the seed understands its assignment. So it's willing to go through all those things to become what the potential is. It's willing to go through those things to become the tree or the flower or
Mhm.
whatever the seed's assignment is, right? And married people, that's the seed, right? And they got to go through because they understand their assignment. They go
Mhm.
through brokenness. They go through repossessions. They
Yeah.
go through lights being cut off. I can remember times my lights got cut off. We went and got candles, man. I can remember a time when water got cut off and we went and bought 15, 20 gallons of water so we could flush the toilet. You do whatever you
Mhm.
got to do
Mhm.
because your seed understands the assignment. Elaborate on that for me, Pastor Rodney.
So when you're committed to one another, then that commitment to one another means just what your vows say, for better or for worse, in
Mm,
sickness and in health, until God by death separate us. And I
Mhm.
think that that's the thing that's always carried us through, is that we were always committed to one another, even when we were upset with one another.
mm.
That a lot of things came in, and I think what a lot of people don't understand, they don't understand that the reason why marriage is a challenge so much is because scripturally, and I'm speaking from a biblical standpoint, that marriages represent on the earth the relationship between Christ and the church. And
Mhm.
Gotcha.
so people ought to be able to see how Christ feels about his bride, even when they don't have a Bible. They ought to be able to look at
Wow.
a couple and see how the relationship between Christ and the church is supposed to play out. And that's one of the reasons why the enemy attacks marriages, so that he can stifle that particular testimony from getting
Absolutely.
to the world. And so we have to be sober. We've got to be vigilant. We got to always be watchful for
That's
things
good stuff.
coming in to divide that union, because it's the most powerful relationship that God has instituted on the earth. The
That's
the
good.
the the the, the relationship between you and your children is never supposed to exceed the relationship between the husband and the wife, or the
Right.
wife and the husband. It's the greatest relationship. Not your frat brothers, not your sorors.
Say that again for the people in the back. Please say it again for the people in the back.
Supposed to be more important than the relationship between the husband and the wife and the wife and the husband. And so the enemy fights against that. He fights against that. And when we come to a place of maturity, then we understand that when challenges arise, then it's an attack of the enemy. And so we have to band together in order to successfully navigate those waters.
Now, you just said something that's very powerful. Now, and I want to address what Deidre said. And I agree with Deidre because I didn't argue much in my marriage either. But Deidre said all couples don't argue. And they don't. Some don't. And that's okay. Everyone has different fingerprints, you know. And when you got two whole people that come together to make one whole person, one whole marriage, then you got that fingerprint, right? And that fingerprint. So, no, I know Gerald and Deidre don't argue. I mean, they've been married, 30, I think y'all been married, 36 years, Deidre and Gerald, somewhere around that range. So that's powerful. And these are the ones, Stu Nation, that I want you listening to. I want you listening to people who have gone through and they have different testimonies. They have, Gerald and Deidre probably would never argue. But 36, okay, I was right. But Rodney and Lady Z just said, yeah, we argued. But they're still together 33 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And 33 years later, you're still
and we still bump heads, from time to
Lady Z, does he win?
Time. When you I would be remiss to say that we always got along. I don't even think that would be fair for us to say that. I'm grateful for Deidre and Gerald that's their testimony, but it's not our testimony. We have bumped heads times without number. But I remember my son saying this. My son said, I have seen you all argue, but I've also seen you make up. And that inspired him. So that's the journey that we're on. And so I'm even though you all said that you shouldn't reveal your wounds, I think that sometimes you have to show your wounds and your scars
in order to help someone. Yes.
Well, I don't think there's an issue with revealing your wounds. I just don't think we put them on billboards. You understand?
No.
And I think sometimes people expect us to put them on billboards. Well, y'all just do it. No, don't. First of all, why are you worried about somebody else's marriage? You know what I'm saying? That's the first and foremost thing. And why do we want to see so many people struggle or so many people do bad? Why it's so sad to me that a lot of us we don't even look for the good first. We're looking for the negative first. We're looking for people to get divorced. Like somebody just said, Tanisha said earlier, that the dating pool has pee in it right now. So y'all are blessed to have each other 33 years, 33 years later, and 36 years later, y'all are blessed to have companionship. And when I looked up after 17, 18 years at that time of being married, and I'm separated going into a divorce, I tell people all the time, the silence sound like noise to me.
Wow.
Because I was so used to hearing voices. Yeah. And so, and when I didn't hear those voices every day, the silence sounded a whole lot like noise. And I could go days without talking to nobody because I didn't want to talk to nobody. Because number one, I was depressed. I didn't feel like going through those. So sometimes but the thing is, a testimony has one big letter right in the middle of it. And it's I. TESTIMONY. So if I tell my testimony, it's my testimony to tell. And I think that was the key point in the beginning of this video, or this beginning of this interview, when I asked you about your husband and how y'all met, and you started out covering. I think that was the greatest lesson that you could have given in a subliminal fashion. See, that's what Big Mama and them used to do. Big Mama and them would pull everybody, would put all the girls in the kitchen. She ain't really pull the boys in the kitchen. The boys somewhere else or somebody else. But she put the girls in the kitchen and start teaching subliminal lessons, right? Because we learned through storytelling. We learned through parables, right? We had to get the moral of the story. Granddaddy might not have been the most educated, but my granddaddy could walk around my daddy's land and look up in the tree and say, that tree dead. Now that tree 50 feet tall. How you see the tree dead? But he has an eye that I don't have, right?
Right.
And so in marriage, That's why we compliment one another, right? I told somebody the other day, I said, I'll give you the compliment COMPLIMENTS as long as you compliment me COMPLEMNTS. Because I need us to work together. I mean, I
Right.
want peace. So
Yeah.
talk about that for a moment. What do
Mhm.
you do? What do you guys do to maintain the peace in your family, in your relationship?
I think one of the things that we do to maintain peace is to listen,
Okay.
to communicate, and communicating to me is not just always having something to say and wanting to be heard, but also being able to listen. And
Okay.
um, well, when we talk about, even in talking about listening, a lot of times we can hear what the other person is saying, but we're not really listening. We're not actively listening.
Mm,
Um, so to me, communication is very important in a relationship in order to keep the peace.
okay. Rodney?
I think the first thing we start out with prayer. We start out with
Hmm.
prayer in our home. That's how we get peace. Uh,
Okay.
but I piggyback off of what she says, communication, because so many times we go into relationships and we expect for the other person to be a mind reader. Uh,
Mm,
that if you don't communicate the things that I'm doing wrong or the things that you don't agree with, then I don't know that I'm doing the wrong thing or I'm doing something that displeases
Hmm.
you. So we have to sit down
that's
and one
good.
of the things that she taught me was that there's a proper time to communicate. Don't communicate while you're angry
Okay.
or out of your anger, but to be able to sit down at sometimes and just really let her know where I'm coming from and give her an opportunity to let me know where she's coming from. That promotes peace within the household, and because she respects me, I respect her. Then I'm going to listen, and then I'm going to adjust my behavior accordingly. I'm not just going to reveal I'm the man and you can't tell me what to do. I do what I want to do. I've got to adjust my behavior accordingly, because ultimately my primary purpose is to keep her happy. you know and
Gotcha.
I think that
And
that's
vice versa.
missed a lot of times.
Gotcha. We're
Hmm.
not gonna get to all these questions tonight, y'all know that, right? So we're gonna have to part two this. So y'all gotta let me know when y'all can come back. I got people already in the comments asking when y'all coming back. So y'all I gotta get y'all to come back again. I gotta get y'all to come
Well,
back. Now, and I'm not ending the conversation right now. I'm gonna take all my little 8 minutes because y'all told me I had till 10 o'clock. So I'm going I'm gonna use all 8 of my minutes. Uh so let's do it like this. In-law issues. Have
Wow.
y'all ever had any in-law here? Because I know some father-in-laws, some mother-in-laws from hell. I mean, that want to get in our business. And honestly, as African American people coming from Africa, we're communal people.
Yeah.
So as communal people, we always had the elders in our family, and that's who helped us navigate the struggles and the trials.
hmm.
Back in the old days, because I remember one time when I was married and that's the only example I have. And I did something that was probably worthy of a divorce, and she left me. And she went, and her mother told her, God rest her soul, but her mother said, "Have you prayed about it?" And she said, "Well, no." She said, "Well, go back home."
Okay.
And that was to me. Now, what I did, most mothers would say, "Girl, get your bags, let's go. We out of here. Da da da. I'll help you pack all this kind of stuff." Her
Yeah.
mother said, "Have you prayed about it?"
Hmm.
Wow.
And then she sent her back home. And that's something those are good in-laws. But then unfortunately we got too many of the other in-laws that's always involved, always trying, don't give you room to grow. Do y'all have any of those in-law stories?
So you started out that the elders helped us navigate this time, not navigate this time that we in, not nagging in your business. But truth be told,
Oh,
truth be
Jesus.
told, my mother, when she first met my wife, could not stand my wife,
Oh,
could
That
not
is true.
wow.
stand her. And over time, She began to see, she thought I was rushing. It's been 6 months, so it's plenty of fish in the sea. She didn't want me to step out there and get the wrong person. So she resented my wife for introducing herself to her. You have crossed the line, and so she didn't give her a chance in the beginning. But my mother passed at 49.
Okay.
When she was 49 years old, and we had been married probably about 5 or 6 years at that time. Before she passed, her and my wife had become the best of friends. She saw in my wife what I saw in my wife from the
Wow.
beginning, and they became the best of friends.
We did.
And we have a little similar story with her mother, my relationship with her mother, so she can tell you that.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm all
Well,
ears.
yeah. Well, my mom was actually deceased already, but with my family, I remember, I remember my aunt, and she was just like a mother to me, because my mom died when I was like 12. So my aunt became that mother figure. And I remember her giving him the third degree, man. She just,
Wow.
and she knew that he was a preacher, but she was
I was still
protected.
in prison.
Right.
Okay.
He was still in prison, and she did not want him to be a part of my life. But I remember when she saw the man, when he got out and she saw the man that he was. I remember her stopping us in the street, and I can't
Wow.
remember exactly what it is that she said to him. I bet he remember. But she gave us her blessings. She said, in other words, she said that he has proven himself.
Wow.
So it was after they saw that, after his mother saw and my aunt saw that the people that we were for each other, then we had their blessings.
So
Right.
two things. Two things. I want to notice something here, and then what I want to ask
Mm-hmm.
this question: when your family, Lady Z,
Mm-hmm.
hear me, audience, hear the question. When your family had a problem with him, how did you handle your family?
Basically, I heard them. I did not ignore them.
Hmm.
I listened to what they said, and I took into account what they said, because I knew that they cared about me, that they
Okay.
had loved me all of these years before I met him, and what they were voicing was only concern about me.
Okay.
But at the same time, I needed them to understand that I felt like this was my husband. And if I made the mistake, then, I'm human, but let me do this.
Got you. Got you.
Hmm.
Got your same question, Rodney.
Oh, for me, my the only problem that I had in my family was my mother. No one else had that, any say so about what was going on, and ultimately my mother, like I said, we got married in her backyard.
No,
So
okay. I guess so. You give me a vanilla answer now. You gave me unsanitized earlier now, but now you're getting a little vanilla. Did you have to stop your mama from disrespecting your wife? That's my question. And if
no,
that op, and,
she never
okay, that's the
disrespected
question.
her. She never
Okay.
disrespected
Yeah,
her.
she didn't
And
disrespect.
and, and once we got married,
Like
this
he
was
said,
why
you ain't gonna disrespect me either. No, I'm
No, she
joking.
didn't.
this
She didn't disrespect me.
this was why you have to understand my mother. My mother was 5 feet tall, but she was a bulldog.
Okay.
And so she would say whatever was on her mind, and she didn't bite her tongue. As long as we were seeing each other, dating, she had an issue with it. Once we said "I do," she got on board with us,
Yep.
and she helped us through the journey. I'm still incarcerated now. I'm still incarcerated, and so her relationship with my wife got tighter during that time because
Okay.
they were together. They were together.
Got you.
So no, we didn't have any issues.
Okay.
So it was kind of vanilla, after
And
we got married.
now that's a problem though. That's in a lot of relationships,
Yeah,
because if mama and
That's
daddy are
true.
disrespecting the husband, do you protect your husband? Or because I know if somebody would disrespected mine, I promise I would have stood up against heaven. I'd have been like Jesus. I'd have been lifted a standard against all of my enemies. Ain't nowhere in the world you was gonna come for mine. And that's something I always did. But sometimes I wasn't sure if that was reciprocated. You know what I'm saying? So I wonder, how you all handle. Listen, it's 9:59. I promised I would only keep them on for an hour. I'm gonna stay on for a couple of more minutes because I want to take some more questions. What y'all doing next week? What y'all doing next week? I'm gonna pray about that, y'all. For real, though. Pray. We need to do this again soon, for real. Cause
Okay.
I got more questions that I haven't gotten to yet. The audience seems to love you all, and y'all are blessing the people tonight. So I'm going to cut.
Let's go a little further. Let's go a little further.
Y'all got time?
Okay,
y'all got
why?
time?
Yeah.
Yes,
Let's go a little
yes.
further.
Y'all see them still submitting to each other right now? We learned it. We learned it. So yeah, okay. So y'all got me. Yeah, y'all got me 10 or 15 more minutes, and we can get it all in tonight, and that'll be so. Okay, so cool. So some people say y'all helping me. Yes. Okay, good. So let's go a little bit more into this in-law thing, okay? Because even though you didn't have the issues, what I want you to do is I want you to talk to a wife, Lady Z, who her family is disrespecting her husband, but she's chosen her husband. How does she handle her family?
Well, I have to answer that from a biblical perspective, where it talks about how the husband and the wife became one.
Yeah.
That they had to, and a lot of times when we look at that, we would say, well, the family has been there all the time. How can they turn away from their family because of this man or because of this woman? But the Bible tells us that we are supposed to, and my husband is looking up the scripture as I speak, but it tells us about how we're supposed to become one with our spouse. Yes, we're supposed to cleave to our spouse. And in order to do that, sometimes you have to put family on the back burner, so to speak. Because as Elder Young said earlier, that there is no relationship more important than the relationship of a husband and a wife.
You talking good.
So we have to realize that my husband comes before my children, and it may seem bad in order to say that, but it's the truth that the relationship that I have with my children is not more important than the relationship that I have with my husband. And it took me some time
Say that
to
again.
learn that.
Say that again, please.
That my relationship with my children, with my family, is not more important than the relationship that I have with my husband.
Wow.
Now they're gonna dispute you to women.
I know, and I'm going to. Yep, I know it. But it's
not biblical. You're right. Biblically,
yeah.
Okay.
That is true. So, and it took me time to learn that, because I felt like I'm a parent, I'm a mother, and I have to protect my children. Yes, we do have to protect our children, but again, my relationship with my husband is much more important. If my children come against my marriage, then I would have to cut them loose. So then that's something that I had to learn.
Wow.
Y'all listen here, everybody that's under the sound of my voice. They have been married for 33 years. Somebody can do the math for me. Ashley, do the math for me. What's 33 times 365? That's 1,900, whatever it is, number of days. Okay, 19,000 something. They've been married, so they didn't just wake up with these convictions. They didn't just wake up with these resolves. These are things that they had to learn. Paul said, I've learned in whatsoever state I'm in. It's a learning process that helped them get here. See, sometimes we're in 1 year of marriage and think we're supposed to have what somebody has that's been married for 33 years. Right? You know why some trees are so strong? Because they've endured the winds for so long. And every time the wind made them bend, it strengthened them a little bit longer. What you're looking at when you see Rodney and Lady Z is 33 years of storm-tested relationships. And they're not only storm-tested, but they're storm-tried. And not only they storm-tried, but they're storm-approved. They made it through it. You know how I know they've made it through it? Because I'm watching them right now.
Mm-hmm.
Now you just mentioned something, Lady Z and Rodney. You can answer me. What are your children? Y'all have boys, girls? What do y'all have?
We have two girls and a boy.
So how did y'all handle discipline with between the girls and the boys? Why y'all start laughing?
I'll let him answer that. Go ahead, Eddie.
I was a strong disciplinarian,
Okay,
and man, I can tell you stories about that. I was the tough one in the house, and it was not because I knew what I was doing. It was because I felt like that's the way that things were supposed to go. I was a preacher, young Kojic preacher, and I felt like everybody in the house had to march in line. Every T had to be crossed, every I had to be dotted, and so I was tough on the children coming up. My wife was the softer touch.
Mm-hmm.
The mistake that I made in
mistake.
that, and I know that's
Okay,
not what you're asking me for, but the
yes,
mistake
it
that I
is.
made in being so strong a disciplinarian is that I almost missed out on the lives of my children because I was so busy, trying to keep them in line so they
That's
didn't
good
bring
stuff, man.
shame on the church or the ministry. And I missed out on them as people growing up, and
Wow,
it almost destroyed my relationship between me and my kids.
wow.
So I learned at this age. I'm 56 now. Is that right? I'm 56.
You are.
Okay, 56. I'm 56 now, and I have learned that a lot of the things that I was hard on them about was not really that
Listen,
important at all.
that's
Uh,
Right.
good stuff, man. That's
important
good.
of the people, what the people saw.
Wow,
But when it came to developing my relationship with my children, a lot of things that I was hard on them about, it really wasn't that important. And so now
man.
at this stage of my life, I understand that the relationship between them, and I made a vow that the church would never come before my family again. When I watched my
Mm-hmm.
daughters go off to college and I didn't even know who their friends were, I said I would never allow. We didn't go on vacation. If we did,
That's
we
good
had to
stuff,
be
man.
back at church on Sunday because the church wasn't going to survive unless we were there. So I did a lot of things and deprived them of a lot of things because I didn't understand what discipline was all about. You
Mm-hmm.
know.
All right, ladies, me and you talking now. Rodney, I mean, cover your eyes right quick. I gotta ask a question. I gotta ask a question. Y'all know I don't have no notes, right? Y'all know this is all organic, so this is all
Yeah,
this
yeah,
all
yeah.
stems off. And that's why I like these kind of conversations, right? I got a
Mm-hmm.
question, ladies, between me and you.
Okay.
Just between me, you, and lights. Amen, lights. Okay,
All
here we
right.
go.
Amen.
Was there ever a time when y'all were growing, when y'all were young in marriage, and y'all were raising your children, and you saw him exacting discipline or executing discipline, and you said it really don't take all that, but you didn't say nothing to him?
She said something.
Yeah,
I'm
I said something. I did. I won't tell a lie about that. Yeah. There were times because I felt like he was too hard. I felt like you said, it didn't take all of that. But um and we would talk about it. And I realized that a lot of his disciplinary actions were because of how he grew up.
There you go. That's what I was trying to get to. Good stuff
Yeah,
there. That's what I'm
that
talking about.
you
Okay.
know how, and he can tell you how his mom was. Like he said, she was short, she was little, petite woman, but she could make you feel 10 feet tall or 10 inches tall.
Wow.
um and she just had a way about her, that if she loved you, she loved you. If she didn't like you, then you knew she didn't like you. And so a lot of how he handled the children was because of how she was with
Okay.
him growing up. So yeah, we had lots of conversations about it. We
and
did.
and and let's talk about that for a moment, because
Hmm.
even y'all in the comments, There are some of us, and I think most of us are probably a little older, but hopefully some younger people will be listening to this. You have to realize or recognize when you are going down the wrong way in your discipline with your children. And the last thing you want to do is learn too late. That's the last thing you want to do, because like he said, what if he had lost the relationship with them? Because you got some children who walking out of the house and they never coming back. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? I mean, literally not ever coming back. I talk sometime about my relationship growing up, with a certain individual that affected me. I remember one time my ex-wife said, "I hate what she did to you, or what that person did to you." You know what I'm saying? Because you're so affected. But I can remember raising my children as I got older, how I realized certain things weren't that important. I use the analogy all the time, Pastor Young. Like I use the analogy on this show all the time about how my oldest, he wasn't really a morning person. And I would wake him up at 7:00 and I'm yelling at him, telling him to move around, hurry up, and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, then finally it just hit me like a ton of bricks one day. He's not a morning person. So what I start to change that, to keep from yelling at him and having him going to school with a bad day, I wake him up 15, 20 minutes earlier, but I wouldn't say a word. I just turn the light on. And the light would work on him for 15, 20 minutes. So by the time 7:00 came, he was wide awake. You know what I'm saying? He was moving around doing his thing. But it required me being creative in my parenting. You know what I'm saying? To still get positive results. I think a lot of us as parents need to learn how, and I commend you for stepping in and saying that it didn't take, all of that or whatever. And I'm sure even if he didn't respond at that moment, he heard you. And eventually, it started to subside or whatever. But that parenting parenting is a job that requires partnership. It really is. It requires partnership. Like for instance, I didn't want my ex disciplining my son. I mean, I said, let me get him. I didn't want him to see a woman hitting on him. I didn't want him to see a woman talking down to him or talking crazy to him, because I didn't want that precedent set in his life, because I knew how it could affect him in the future. But I couldn't put my hands on my girls, which they weren't bad kids, no way. So they never really got spanking. Man, I said the other day, I think they might have got, all three of them might have got 5 spankings in their whole lifetime. So, but I just didn't have to do it. Plus, I got a little bass in my voice, so I can kind of get them with the bass in the voice and raising the eyebrows. So we usually do it, yeah. So so that's good. That's really, 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 really good stuff, man. So we're going to start winding the conversation down now, because I don't want to keep y'all too long. So I'm gonna give y'all a homework assignment. Well, not a homework assignment. I'm gonna give y'all a quick essay assignment. Okay. I'm gonna let you go first, Lady Z. Rodney, you're gonna have to think a little bit longer. Give me three pros of your relationship, and how would you apply those? How would you apply those pros to? Well, how would you tell a young couple to apply those pros to their marriage?
Okay, so 3 pros to marriage. One, the most important one, is a relationship with God.
Okay.
If you don't have a relationship with God, then you can't expect for your marriage to be all that it's supposed to be. If God is not the center of your marriage, then you're almost fighting a losing battle.
Okay.
So a relationship with God. Number 2 is prayer. To pray for one another, to pray for your spouse. Don't just expect for things to happen, but you have to lift your spouse up in prayer. And communication. You have to communicate. Um, I heard somebody had one of the questions was, when my partner is feeling mentally drained and refuse to communicate, you have to pray for them. You have to lift them up. You have to give them space. So communication and learning who your spouse is, learning his triggers or her triggers, and being able to respect that.
So
So
wait a
I
minute.
actually gave 4.
So when they're mentally drained and they don't want to talk, you're gonna be like, you don't be saying, forget you then. You don't want to talk. You don't want to do. You don't do all that kind of stuff.
Sometimes that's your first mind.
Okay.
Sometimes that's your first mind. But then we have to remember that that they are human, and sometimes they need a minute,
Okay,
sometimes we
okay.
need a minute. So you can't take that route.
Gotcha. All right, so here we go, Pastor Rodney. Give us 3 cons and then tell us how to avoid those cons.
Wow,
I had
wow.
to give you the hard one. I'm sorry. I mean, I
I'm
like her.
not
I like her. I
okay.
love her. So I like her. So she's gonna be the stew mother. I don't mean you. Hey, I just adopted you as a stew mother. All right. So you might well accept it. Go
Tell
ahead.
me, tell me what exactly are you asking there about the cons when you bring cons into it? What exactly are you asking? I'm not really understanding that.
I didn't understand the question either, but he asked it, so I was gonna put it out there. He said, "Name 3 cons." I can't think of any cons of marriage. You
Yeah,
know, well, let's change the question up a little bit. Let's change the question up a little bit. Let's change what impact does a person with radio? Okay, we get let's change up a little bit. So, what a red flag? Let's talk prior to marriage.
yeah.
Okay, let's talk prior to marriage. Let's
Okay.
talk prior to marriage. What are some red flags that one for the female that she should look for, one that the male should look for, and then one you choose?
I think that a red flag would be first of all someone who doesn't put your interests before their own.
Ooh,
Uh,
that's
if
good.
you see that if he's got more beauty products in his medicine cabinet than you do, that's a red flag right there. But you want somebody that will put you first within the relationship, and I think that's male and female. Someone who's interested in your betterment and us becoming better together is something that you want. Within your relationship. And then if they don't have your best interest, if they don't know your favorite color, if they don't know your favorite movie, if they're not interested in what you like and what you're trying to accomplish, then that's a red flag right there. If
Wait a
they're
minute though.
talking about,
Society says happy wife, happy life.
yeah,
So what
I,
you mean that somebody don't put your interest? That's not what society teaches us.
I have my own interpretation of that particular idiom right there. But that's a red flag for me. If my wife, if she didn't have my best interest, you talked about it at the top of the show. You talked about her covering me. Her that biggest interest is always me,
Gotcha.
and me being okay. And that's the way she is about everybody around her. She wants everybody to be okay. And
Okay.
nobody ever knows what she's suffering, behind the scenes except for me. I see it, but nobody else ever knows because she wants everybody else to be okay. So a red flag is one of those for male and female. If they don't put your interest before, if they don't want to see you all right, if they don't want to see you prosper, if they're jealous when you get a promotion on your job, or when you
That's
get
good
you,
stuff
you
right
know
there.
you get increase in your salary and they become jealous of you, then you got some issues there because they're not wanting to see you be great. So somebody, a red flag is for male and female is when they don't want to see you be great. You know,
Gotcha.
you said two.
Give me one more. I'll make it easy on you. That was a real good one. So give me one more.
A red flag for me is someone who is not going after the same things that you're trying to accomplish in house. Jesus said a house divided against itself shall not stand. So we've got to have common goals that we're reaching after. If it's one person spending all of the money that come in the house and then you're trying to buy a bigger house, or you're trying to invest, in the stock market, and then they're spending everything that they get their hands on, that's a red flag if they're not going after the same goals that you're going after. Just to throw another one in there, if you're a saved person and that person is not saved, that person is not in pursuit of God, that's a red flag right there. You can't expect for them to change just because you walk the aisle and say, I do. You know,
Mhm.
the spouse doesn't come to make you complete. That unequal yoke. There it is, that unequal yoke. You're gonna have some problems. I had an old preacher to tell me, if you a saved woman and you marry an unsaved man, then the devil is your father-in-law. You know, so you
Mm.
can't expect but to have problems down the road. You know, so we don't spend enough time talking about, you know, people having common goal and common
That's good
interest.
stuff, man.
You know, they may be pretty on the outside, but if you're not going in the same direction, somewhere down the line, you're gonna run into some issues.
Man, let me tell you something. Y'all have been. I mean, everybody that's in the chat right now. I mean, have y'all been blessed? If y'all have been blessed by this conversation, do me a favor. Drop a one in the chat. Drop a one in the chat. Just say yes. Drop a heart. Drop something. A thumbs up. A okay sign. Drop something in the chat. Let me know that you're enjoying this conversation, because we're about to let this go. But I want to ask one more final question, and then we're done. And either one of y'all can ask it, but it's a question that comes straight from Stu Nation, asked by Brother Calvin McDaniel, and Brother McDaniel shared his testimony last week.
What's
But
up,
what
Cal?
yeah, he from up top. He from Michigan in that area, so he ain't too far from y'all. So he's up top. But Brother McDaniel said, "What impact?" And either one of y'all can answer this. I don't care which one answers it. He said, "What impact does how a person was raised impact the marriage relationship?"
Wow.
It's a good
Great
question.
question.
It's a good
Oh,
question.
I got something immediately that came to mind right there. My family is they're hard people. They hard, they tough. They don't show a lot of emotion, and showing emotion is seen as weakness. On my side of the family, my wife's family, on the other hand, they like to kiss you and hug you, and every time they see you, they love you, and all of that right there. When I married my wife, that was strange to me, to communicate
Wow.
feelings and all of that.
Good
I
stuff.
had been conditioned to hide my feelings and to cover up what I really felt. What she brought to the relationship because of her upbringing, that's just how they were. I
Wow.
came in all stoic. I can't share my feelings because I was conditioned from the time that I was small. Big boys don't cry. Hide your emotions. You hurting,
Mm-hmm.
you cry, because big boys don't cry. And so I grew up hiding what I really felt. I was hurting, but I couldn't tell nobody because big boys don't cry. But when
Mm-hmm.
my
Wow.
wife came along from a family that was accustomed to expressing their feelings and telling each other how much you love one another and all of that, she opened me up. Now I still don't say all of that stuff and slobber all over everybody, but she opened my eyes to the fact that it wasn't anything wrong with expressing your love and communicating. So those different backgrounds
That's wow.
clash when we met, but then because of those different backgrounds, she helped to make me better, you know, when it comes to communicating what I feel and loving on my children and my grands and all of that right there.
Mm-hmm.
Was that
Mm-hmm.
now, Lady Z? Was that direct teaching or was that indirect? Did you specifically say, "Oh no, you got to work on this," or did you kind of
No,
lead him in that? You kind
no,
of led him in
it
that
was
direction.
indirect. It was
Okay,
indirect.
good.
I didn't even realize that I was doing that. It was just who I, the person that I was, and from my family. He's the one that actually brought
Ooh,
light
y'all
to
bless
that.
me. Mm.
Because I didn't realize, I just knew that, this is who I am. Um,
Lady Z, you want to
so
run for president?
yeah.
You want to
Would
run
you
for
Yes,
president?
support me?
Yes, I would. I write the first $100 check. I promise you, I would. Because you're teaching principles. Because see, let me tell you, for some reason the enemy tried,
Mm,
and yeah, I'm gonna speak prophetically a little bit right here. Uh, for some
mhm,
reason the enemy tried to kill the spirit of Big Mama,
mm,
because Big Mama possessed so much wisdom, and she shared that wisdom. And see, what happens is, like I said about my daughter earlier, if you allow people to learn, then you don't have a chance to teach them if they learn first, right? And see,
Mhm.
what we want to do, a good parent prepares their child before they go out, so
mhm,
that, when they get out, we don't realize how algebra has benefited us while we're taking the class, right? But when we see a red stop sign, we know red means what? Stop. If we see a
Mhm.
green light, we know green means go. We know shapes, we know colors, we know all these things, and they help us become. Same thing ought to happen in a family. We ought to be taught a certain way so that when we go out, we're able to deal with certain things in life, right?
Mhm.
And so in marriages, so many times, you being the woman you are, and I applaud you for being that. You saw who your husband was. You saw his powerful position as a pastor. You saw his testimony coming 62 years being reduced to 3 years. You saw all those things, but you said you understood your position in the family.
Mhm.
So rather than directly sit him down and teach him and emasculate him, you lovingly led him where you needed him to be.
Mm.
And even when you didn't realize you were doing it, the Holy Spirit, because it was resident in y'all's life, made it soft enough. Because, see, this is the thing. That whole lighthouse technique about trying to lead a ship to water, you'll never find a lighthouse technician shining the light in anybody's face
Mhm.
because that'll cause them to crash.
Yeah.
You shine it on the water, and you
That's good.
do it by the way you live, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
I know you do it for Gerald. Lady Z, I'm listening to how you did it for how you did. And this microphone right here, I could have dropped it 5 minutes into our conversation when I asked how you met. If y'all have not, uh, and I asked her was, how did y'all meet? Now, let me give you the version. I was in prison. I was not married. Her first thought or how she wanted you to in a positive light. Because you know why? So many he went to prison, even though it was 30, 40 years, they gonna want to do is put him in the judge. So, what he gonna hear?
Mm-mm.
He came testimony because guess what? Can't nobody tell it like I can tell it.
Mhm. Mhm.
To be told, man, I applaud y'all. I
Bless you.
sound
Bless you.
brave.
Pray for
I'm
us,
sorry.
man. Pray for us.
Yeah, I because y'all have come on tonight. Y'all have blessed stuff going on. If you see, shoot me a text inbox. Shoot me soon so you can kind of correct something wrong way. I got something wrong because I did. I didn't do it. I didn't dot every I. Well, I ain't gonna say I got something wrong. I learned too late. Let's just put it like that. I learned too
Mm.
late. And so so many of us have done. We got to be careful with that, and we got to seek wise and godly provided
Amen.
that for us tonight. Excuse me, not Mark. What the world am I talking about? Zena, what would you tell a young in their struggling already? What would you talk?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Okay, young couple, 3 years of marriage, but they're already thinking of what would you say to them?
Thinking about divorce?
Or well, they're thinking about separating because they having a
Oh,
few
separating.
having a
Okay.
couple of yeah.
Okay.
They're still
Uh,
together.
mhm.
This is not a real scenario. They're still
Okay.
together, but they're
Mhm.
arguing. They're not seeing eye to eye. Yada yada yada. What would you say to them to help them get on the right road?
I, mainly what you mentioned is seeking godly counsel.
Mm,
It would be detrimental for them to not be mindful of who they talk to about their marriage, and not to talk. I mean, not talk to just anybody,
Right.
but seek godly counsel, because you could be talking to somebody and they could be trying to get in on where you are,
Yeah.
or get,
yeah.
trying to break you up. So to be mindful about who you seek counsel from, and to go before God, with your spouse, not away from them, but do it together.
Okay.
Um, we know the Bible talks about a house that prays together stays together and all this. But so we need to all, not the Bible, but we need to always pray together. We need to always consider one another. What my husband said earlier is to always have the other person's interest before my own. And
Mhm.
so we have to always be mindful of one another and consider one another.
All right. Now, Rodney, man, uh, didn't- so he didn't see a husband as a good example. You tell him to get that advice he needs to be the husband he needs to be.
Wow, man. It's a learning process. None of us master this. Um, I'm still learning to be a husband after 33 years. I'm still learning. Never give up uh, the opportunity to learn more. If we follow the word and we keep on bouncing back and forth in the word, but that's what our marriage is built on, the word. Uh, uh, in order to become who you're supposed to be, it begins with your relationship with God. If you have a relationship with God, then everything else is elementary. And He gives you wisdom to treat your wife the way that Christ treated the church and gave himself for it. And none of us have gotten to the place where we master it. But if you continue to work at it, you seek. I like what my wife said. Proverbs 11:14 says, "In the multitude of counselors, there's safety." Don't hang
Mhm.
around with a bunch of single guys that are cheating on their wives and expect for them to help you to become the kind of husband that you're supposed to be. You have to
Mhm.
find people, connect with
Mhm.
men, connect with men that are striving to be successful in their
That's
marriage,
good.
to be faithful to their wives, to take care of their children. Those are the kinds of people that you connect with, because ultimately, iron sharpens iron. So I would suggest getting around a group of men that are really committed to their relationships.
Mhm.
That is invaluable advice. And that, to me, folks, that, uh, Pastor Rodney, you know you my partner, so I appreciate you too.
All
And
right,
we
all
look
right,
forward, hopefully, to having you all back on the show
Look
at some
forward
point
to it.
again. Questions I can come up with, and y'all seem equipped to answer all of them. So I appreciate it. All right.
all
So
right.
Thank
y'all
Pray
have
for
a
us,
good.
dude. Pray for
We
us.
thank you
got
so
you. We
much.
got you. Hang around for a minute. I want to give y'all an announcement, but I'm letting them out. Y'all
All right.
listen. Tomorrow night I will be back on. I will have Tuesday Flow. This is an interview. I got 60,000 followers. I'll be interviewing her about marriage. She has a powerful testimony. Girl won't let her live that mistake down, but we're gonna her night at the same time, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, for the another episode Tuesday. For this platform, send stars. You see the Cash App and the Zelle and the below. Feel out of here. I'm good night. I appreciate you. I'm not Monique. See y'all again soon, but I gotta get some of these pie stories out now. And so we're gonna be. I always say when I get out of here, my question: remain same. Video. Y'all, good night.